Good morning, Carrie Lukens with South State Alliance Realty and Property Management, here with my friend Rich Dillman. Rich,
good morning.
Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Rich, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
So I am a mortgage lender with NFM Lending. Been in this town for almost 20 years doing mortgages, working with awesome realtors like you.
Thanks. Yeah. I didn't let them know I didn't pay you to say that.
Yeah. Compliments are free.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yes.
So, Rich, we've known each other about 6 or 7 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And you are the guru of lending. What's Robin call you?
The mortgage maker.
The mortgage maker.
I still have that coffee cup.
Yeah. So what's the best thing about doing a mortgage for people?
The best part of the job is the result. It's most people don't understand what I do or how to do it. They come to you to buy a house. They don't know how to get there. So directions to the science project, they call it. Being able to sit somebody down, help them understand it, help them figure out how to do it, help them plan it. And especially first-time home buyers and veterans, and just really, you're just helping them change their future, and it's very rewarding to know that someone's going to have a better chance of retiring, because we help them.
When I look at helping somebody buy or sell a home, I look at it as one aspect of the American dream that I'm being entrusted to help them fulfill.
Yeah.
There are only 3 aspects to the American dream.
Yeah.
A family, an education, and home ownership.
Right.
So it's a huge honor, and
cool.
it's weighty.
Yeah.
And so having a mortgage maker like you to back us, we're, like you said, you're the director, and we're the delivery drivers of it.
Well, I'd say you're more the director. I'm more the producer. I would say if we're comparing it to that. It's just the elevator speech. I always say we get paid well to change people's lives, and that's kind of at the end of the day we get to help our families. I get to employ people and help them help their families by helping people help their families. And it's
helping others is what it's all about.
Coolest job in the world.
With the shift in the market recently, what are you seeing as a big challenge that people are asking about?
The biggest challenge for me is the panic, the false hysterics. I just see a lot of people. To say there's nothing to think about or talk about is not bright. Trying to find a nice word. But I think there are a lot of people that are creating panic that is not necessarily, it's not necessarily ever create the panic, but on top of that, you're scaring people out of something that might be a great opportunity for them. And so, years ago, there was a financial wizard who's very popular who used to say you should never buy a house unless you had 20% down. And it infuriated me. I said, you're robbing somebody of an opportunity. It'll take them 10 years to save that money versus owning a house today responsibly and building equity for 10 years. You're actually prolonging someone's retirement. And now, fast forward today, it's telling somebody not to buy a house because the sky's going to fall. Well, if you have a family and you want to raise your children in this school district, so you buy the house today, I say to people, it's like buying a stock. If you're buying a stock long term, if you're buying a house long term, it's the same thing. If I'm buying a house and my kids, my first home, my twins were newborns, my other son was 3, my daughter was 12. We weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's so I don't care if it goes down 5% next year. I know for a fact it's going to in 10 years be worth a lot more. First house I bought is a perfect example. I paid $175. It was worth $225 a few years later. Then the crash came and it was worth $175 again. That house is for sale right now for $400,000. It was 19 years ago. So telling somebody to wait the 5 years, you didn't do any favors.
Not at all.
So
not at all.
And I don't think it's going to be nearly as bad as a lot of people are implying. And that's the part, you're creating panic.
And it's unwarranted.
Completely.
Because everybody's always going to have a place to live.
Yeah, and our market is specifically better, I think, than a lot of them. And I think the conditions are so much different.
Talking about that panic, even during the crash of 2008, 2009, our market still appreciated at a 3.4% because of our wide variety of demographics.
Yeah.
A large part because of the 5 military bases here. We have a lot of stability with that. And so had you bought your home, I bought my first home here in Colorado in August of 2007, and the market fell out in February of 2008.
I bought all the way to the top. My second house, my third house, 2007, like right at the 2006 actually, like right before it went.
Yeah.
And yes, it was a little scary to go, oh my goodness. And I mean, there was a stretch. The house I bought was probably 20% upside down.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going anywhere. I was raising my kids in my house, and I paid for my house every month.
We stayed there for almost 15 years.
Yeah.
And we ended up making a very, very nice return.
Yep.
Because we lost it. We were, like you said, probably 20 to 30% underwater.
Yeah.
But then we came back and
go to work, pay your bills. If you were paying rent, you still have to pay your rent.
Exactly.
Say that. If you have to pay to live, you have to pay to live anyway.
So why not pay yourself to live?
The conditions today are just such a contrast from the conditions 15 years ago. So for people to imply that that's going to happen again, and I'm a stat junkie. I'm big on the facts, and it's like the numbers don't lie. When you came out of, you were in the 4 to 6 month inventory, I think, in early 7, and then mid to high 6s in rates.
Yep.
And so now you came from a half a month inventory a year ago,
on
maybe a month now.
A month, maybe, if you're lucky.
You had a lot of strategic defaults back in the day where people were like, hey, I can go rent that for $1,000 and my mortgage is $15. Bad advice they took to do that, but at the same time, well, now you have the guy that's at 2.25%, 3, even 3%, and now the rates are up. So they're going to fight for their house more than they used to.
Exactly.
They don't have an arm that's going to adjust. They don't have a prepayment penalty that prevents them from selling the house. I don't even know. Up to 25% of the mortgages for a stretch prior to that crash were subprime and Alt-A, and they were not great loans, and they were sold to people who didn't understand them. And so, our industry, we goofed, and Wall Street got greedy.
But the industry has made a lot of changes and put a lot of safety so that doesn't happen again.
Exactly. Everything since then, 30-year fixed. You had lenders. I'm reading Ben Bernanke's book right now, and they were talking about Shearson Lehman last night. Lehman Brothers was, I think it was like 63 to 1 at one point. They were leveraged. So when prices dropped, they got desperate, their creditors dried up, and they had to dump everything. You can't be in the mortgage industry as an investor anymore without having some reserves.
Yeah.
You can't. Most of the lenders back, like today, there's a lot of, the privately owned lenders are well capitalized. There's a lot of publicly traded lenders, a lot of hedge fund lenders. Hedge fund, we spoke about this yesterday. The hedge funds, if there's a bunch of foreclosures, I work for a company that was owned by a hedge fund. They had a plan in place. If the default rate did go up, they'll go issue a new fund to buy their own defaulted mortgages and rent the houses out so they don't flood the inventory. Now you hear everybody complaining about, all the hedge funds buying up rentals. Well, if they're buying up the inventory and they're preventing the inventory from flooding if they get mortgages back, that is the giant drop last time was caused by that.
Yes.
There was a desperate need to dump inventory by people that couldn't afford the loans they held. So the default rate, I don't think it's nearly as high, and you're not going to have an inventory problem again. So if you put those two things together, I just don't see how.
It's the stats and facts that you're talking about.
It just can't happen.
It's not going to change anything this time around.
Now I want to ask you, because as an agent, I keep hearing about, the price drops, the price drops, the price drops. My guess, you look at this every day and I do not, but my guess is that, the guy that sold for 400 in March, his neighbor would sell it for 4.25 in May, going back a year ago. By June, it's 450. So are we really seeing price drops, or are we seeing people having to get in touch with reality that prices aren't going up 10% a month?
We are having a correction, a much needed correction. Yeah. That people, the value was an inflated value because of the lack of inventory. Now that there is a little bit more choice for inventory, and people are having to be more realistic because of a little bit of rise in rates, if they want to stay within a certain budget per month, then their buying power has gone down a little bit. And so, no, we're seeing a much needed correction and a revisit with reality.
As a lender, I'm actually happy with where we're at because, but the biggest challenge for buyers, if you're buying a house, what's your employment look like, what's your credit look like, and what do your assets look like? And there are a lot of people out there who if the credit's not great, we can fix that. If you don't make enough money to own a home, you don't make enough money to own a home, and that's just the reality that none of us can do anything about. But There are a lot of people out there, especially with families, where they have good credit, they work for a living, they're not irresponsible with their money, but they just, I've raised 5 children. It's really tough to put a lot of money in the bank when you're raising kids.
When you're raising kids, yeah.
So the biggest challenge for me with my buyers has been money. It's they don't have a lot of money, and so now we're seeing where, I've gotten 4 contracts this week where they just paid full price, they got closing costs, they're getting in a home, and now that's loosening up. I had the highest contract application month last month that I've had in as far as just strictly buyers in memory, because all of a sudden I had this backlog of buyers that wanted so badly on a house, but they're, we can save $500 a month, so it's going to take them a year and a half to save $9,000 for their, and then all of a sudden now, hey, you can get closing costs, and it was just like boom,
We're
boom,
starting
boom, boom.
to see more and more concessions. We're starting to see down payment assistance programs come back and be used, and for the agent to not advise their seller that it might not be a good program, because those down payment assistance programs are great. Educating the buyer about gift funds. There's lots of different ways you can get money.
I have a lot of people with 401ks, you can borrow against that. You can. That's the problem. I think a lot of I understand if I were an agent, when you have 14 offers on a house, the cash offer, sure. But I think it's more about, if I have 3 people qualified today, and one of them is qualified on a CHAFA loan, and one of them is a VA loan, and one is a conventional 20% down, what I have always said to realtors is, they are pre-approved, and I have underwriting approval, they're going to close. So if the buyer's going to close, why do you care what program they're using? Now I understand the inspection stuff's in play and all that, but what I'm seeing is, yep, you're going to put some concessions down by a house. You're going to have to fix inspection items.
Yes.
You can't say too bad pound sand if your furnace is going. Well, again, I'm more buyer's side than seller's side because I'm a lender, but it's a fair fight right now.
It's
the way I put it.
Very much a fair fight.
It's better for everybody when it's a fair fight. So we don't have enough supply to meet the demand, and that's why I don't believe. I'm not saying that, I'm not the guy that's going to go, no, they're going to keep going 5-10% a year. You're always talking about, your house might go down 5% in a year. And
it might. Instead of having this major growth in equity of, 12 to 17%, depending upon the neighborhood, like as the last couple of years, it's going to go back to that kind of normal average. We're going to, just like the stock market, we're going to go up 5%, we're going to go down 7%. But like you said, over the long term, we're going to always have a gain.
Through a few of these, they always come back and they
land
go
is
up.
finite. And there's not a lot more of it, and so we've got to utilize and make the best of what we have.
I think our market is better than a lot of them. I grew up in New York, a neighborhood where it'll do this. Colorado is, every top 5 places to live, on this list of most beautiful places. We have an exceptional economy compared to a lot of places, so you're going to have more people wanting to come here. So I just do not see, I don't think it's ever a bad idea to own a house, but I do speak to, if I have a military buyer who says I'm probably going to be sent to, Fort Benning in 18 months, well then let's talk about it. You're prepared to rent this place out if it doesn't gain the equity to have the conversations with the people. And this is what it's going to look like if you're going to rent this one out and buy another one. And here's how you use your second VA, and you want to put some reserves away. And I'm having those conversations with the people who are probably going to be short-term living in the house they're buying. But I had several last month. They're like, yeah, no, that was my plan. I want to build a portfolio.
Build a portfolio.
So cool. Let's buy this one now, but this is the position you want to be in for the next one when you're ready to rent this one out.
Exactly.
And if it makes you a bunch of money and you want to sell it, great. But be prepared to hang on to that house and rent it out if you can't sell it. It's responsible for us to have those conversations with them.
My son's active duty, and so he bought his first house in Alabama. And when he left Alabama, he has renters in it, and he started building his portfolio. He's in Kansas now. 25 years old, is on his second house.
Nice. Good job, Mom.
Yeah, thanks. But yeah, people need to know that this is a great way to build wealth.
Yeah.
But you just have to be smart about it. And like you said, if you only are going to be here for a year to 18 months, you got to have that education, that plan.
And that's, we started with what makes this job fun. We're educators. We get to share information that They don't even know where to go find it. They don't have access to it necessarily. You know, people who run talk shows are paid to create a narrative. They make their living telling you why you should do what they say. And I think the nice part about us doing it on the ground level is I can share everything I know and everything I've learned and everything I see and tell you where to go get statistics and you know, I'll go back to Carrie and hear her side of what I'm talking about. And we give them all this information and educate them so they can make the best decision for them. And I think in these markets, it's getting to where a lot of people are, their purpose is to tell their clients, you know, how smart they are. And it's like, you know, that's what we talked about. I asked you before, are you interested in helping them make a decision, or are you interested in helping them understand what you believe?
No, we're interested in helping them make a decision. It doesn't matter what my opinion is and what my thoughts are. It's what's going to be best for the client.
Yeah. So I just think there's a lot of predictions. And my personal, as I've said, is not, this is not sustainable ever.
No, and it's not Chicken Little, the sky's not falling.
10% every 6 months was not sustainable, but that doesn't mean it's going to drop 30% because it went crazy for a couple of years. And again, I keep saying in this market, I think there are some markets in other parts of the country that might get hit a little harder than us. I just think we do not have enough supply for the demand to diminish to that level.
We still don't. You know, instead of having 250 homes on the market every day, we're actually seeing about 450 homes on the market. Yeah. But 5 years ago, that was 2,000 homes on the market. So
13,000. I remember my office was across the hall from this one, and I would sit there and look at that PPR, everything, and go, oh God, every month. It was 13,000 houses at one point.
Yeah.
You know, and there were 900 houses selling every month. You know, that's a lot of inventory, kids.
That's a lot of
inventory. We averaged 13 months for, I think, a year or two. We were averaging 13-month inventory. Yeah. And everybody's saying the same thing's going to happen, but we have a 1-month inventory. So how do you take a 1-month inventory and have the same problem? Exactly. With lenders that are more equipped to handle what potentially could happen on top of it. With more, I think you have more educated buyers now because of the crash. I think a lot of people taught their kids to be smarter and think ahead a little bit.
I agree wholeheartedly.
So I just think all the conditions lead to this isn't going to be that bad.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. Well, save this.
Rich, anything else you want to talk about?
No. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming by today.
Looking
forward to doing this again.
Yeah. Have an awesome day.
You too.